is a-okay. So today we're going to be talking about sleep health, sleep hygiene. Are you tired of being tired? I hope not, but if so, you came to the right place. So today we're going to be going over kind of why, how we sleep, sleep deprivation, certain types of sleep disorders, the dangers of sleepiness, especially at prolonged rates, and how we can modify our sleep hygiene or sleep schedule to get a better night's sleep. So starting off, talking about the function. Why do we need sleep? Sleep is a very, very vital function to our overall body. It's going to serve a variety of important physical and physiological functions, including kind of talking about our restoration process, excuse me, sorry. It is going to help with our learning, our memory consolidation, emotional regulation, judgment and decision making, problem solving, our energy, growth and healing, our immune system. During sleep, our body releases hormones, proteins that help fight inflammation and infection. And it also is going to replenish our brain glycogen. It also is so a part of the the circadian rhythm. So that's going to be a physical, mental, and behavioral changes that an organism experiences over a 24-hour cycle. So light and darkness do have the biggest impact and influence on our circadian rhythm, but that also is going to be affected by food intake, stress, physical activity, social environment, and temperature also can play a role on our body's circadian rhythm. And this is going to also help then regulate our hormones as well as our metabolism. So jumping into the sleep cycle, so we know a little bit more about the background information about sleep. So adults typically experience 4 to 6 sleep cycles every night. Each one of those cycles, as you'll kind of see on this slide here, is going to be lasting anywhere between 90 to 110 minutes. The cycle then restarts every 80 to 100 minutes, and you might wake up briefly between these cycles, which is totally, totally normal. So in between each one of these little dips here is when you might kind of wake up because you're really, really right at the lightest sleep stage. Very common. This is probably when you would wake up to use the bathroom, restroom if you do. Totally fine, totally normal. If you have a hard time getting back to sleep after being woken up one of these cycles, that's an area where we can kind of solve a little bit with some more sleep hygiene. With each one of these cycles, they're going to consist of, so starting off with the um, NREM or the kind of non-REM stage. This is going to be very, very light sleep. So up here at the very top, stage one. This is usually pretty short duration that we're here, 5 to 10 minutes. A lot of people experience twitching muscles. This is more wakeful rest, so kind of, napping, kind of very, very light sleep. And then we have NREM stage 2. As we go a little bit deeper, this is more considered light sleep. So this is usually only about 20 minutes, and your body temperature is going to drop. Our heart rate's going to slow down. This is mostly when the memory making and sorting information process takes place. And then as we dip a little bit farther into sleep, we're now into NREM stage 3 or deep sleep. So the dark blue section down here. And this is lasting anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes, and your muscles are fully relaxed, our blood pressure and breathing rates drop. It's a very restorative sleep. So this is when our body repairs. It's going to feel fresh in the morning, making sure that we get kind of in that deep sleep. And actually, it's a good um, refresh for a heart because the heart rate drops to such a low level. It is very healing during that time. And during this stage, so stage number 3, is when uh, our brains, um, I'm blanking on the term here. I apologize. So our brains lymphatic system, sorry, kicks into high gear. So when it kicks in, this is going to help flush out our toxins, including those linked to negative cognitive decline, which is really a good indicator of why the stage 3 is so important. Dipping down then to REM sleep, or within that stage, the REM sleep. So then when we are kind of at our cycles at the very end, REM sleep is going to be when we have most brain activity. So that's going to be between 10 to 60 minutes. You have temporary voluntary muscle paralysis during this time. You're going to have vivid dreams. Typically, this is going to be the last cycle. And well, not typically, it is the last cycle, and usually it's going to most of where our dreaming happens as part of that REM sleep cycle. And this is where our brain's going to make new neural connections. During the REM sleep, it's going to help with our problem solving, innovation, and emotional processing, all kind of in that the REM sleep, which finishes off each one of those cycles, which there are 4 to 6 of. Now, in terms of the amount of recommended sleep, so this is going to be kind of the amount of sleep that you need to feel rested. It is different over the span of our lifetime, though new studies have shown that over the course of the past 100 years, we have decreased our average nightly sleep by about 2 hours, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. And I'll kind of explain why in a little bit. But when we're looking at the amount of sleep we need to feel rested, it's different across our lifespan, slowly decreasing. So from infant, 12 to 16 hours, then dropping down to toddler of 11 to 14, then 10 to 13, 9 to 12, and then in the teen years of 13 to 18, 8 to 10 hours, and then as an adult, 18 plus for the rest of our life, 7 or more. Now, the reason and I want to touch on this right now with a slide. So the reason that you'll kind of see that light blue here within the adult, that's between 7 to 10 hours. You'll see most of the recommendations between 7 to 9 is what you hear, but 7 to 10 is the kind of the regulated range. Our body releases hormones, which actually I think this might be my next slide, so I will jump to that. It is. So the body releases hormones at 2 periods, well, periodically throughout the night, but it kind of is going to refresh during those cycles, and especially when we hit 4 and 7 hours. So that's why it is super critical that we get at least 7 hours of sleep. If we fall an average of 6 or less, we really need to focus on our sleep hygiene, our sleep routine, so that we can consistently be getting 7 hours at that bare minimum. So back to hormone release. So the body, it refuels itself, it repairs itself, both with the muscle and our body during that time. And each of these happen at different stages during those sleep cycles. So within that deep sleep, that very last stage, that dark blue that we were looking at 2 slides ago, stages 3 to 4, this is when we're going to have the most human growth hormone is going to be released, which is a major part of that muscle repair, muscle recovery, that tissue growth. As well as testosterone is going to peak during early deep sleep time. So if we, and I should say, when it comes to our sleep cycle, sorry for jumping back here, genetics play a large role into how we navigate our sleep cycles. Now, there is a lot of environmental factors, which I will touch on, that we can use to improve our sleep cycles and sleep hygiene. But ultimately, it will come down to genetics for how the body utilizes this time or how much time we spend in each cycle. So for some individuals, you will have a block of that deep sleep very early on throughout the night, and then you'll kind of bounce between the other 3 stages for the rest of the night. And then other individuals, they will have the true 4 to 7 or 8, even 9 cycles where you hit deep sleep every time periodically for anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes. So everyone's a little bit different, and it's important to kind of learn your body so that you can know how you can best utilize and maximize your sleep schedule. So back to those hormones. Yes, growth hormone is going to be happening in the deep sleep. So if you are working out in the gym, you have any goals over maintaining muscle mass, bone density, growing muscle, deep sleep is incredibly important, because if we are putting in all this effort, all this work in the gym, into our nutrition, and we're getting under 7 hours of sleep, and we're having poor sleep hygiene, we might not be giving the body the rest it needs to actually make good on those repairs, to recover, to grow tissue and muscles. So the work we're putting in, we might not be getting out any effect from it. During the middle of the night, that's when we have the melatonin is going to peak, which is going to regulate our sleep to wake cycles and help us get 4 to 6. And then prolactin is going to support our immunity and our metabolism. And then during that REM sleep, that's when we have, again, the prolactin reaches the highest levels. And then the hormone balance is going to support emotional and cognitive processing, which is why our REM sleep is so important. Then within the early morning, that is when we're going to have cortisol and insulin regulation. So cortisol is going to rise between 1 to 2 a.m. It peaks at around 6 to 8 a.m., which is going to promote more of our wakefulness. Now, these is kind of based off of what I'd say the corporate world, but if you are coming from a place where you have a different schedule, or a plant location where you might be working second shifts, the body can re-regulate, and then your hygiene around sleep becomes even more important because temperature and light really, really dictate our circadian rhythm, which the body will run off of. And then we have, anyway, so appetite hormones are going to be regulated throughout the night. So if we are getting under that 7 hours, if we're having poor sleep hygiene, we might be having an effect to our leptin and ghrelin production. So our leptin, that's going to be the satiation. It's going to be kind of um, our fullness. So if we have inaccurate sleep or if we don't have enough sleep, then that's going to affect the level of satiation that we feel. So we might lead to eating a little bit more. And then ghrelin is the hunger hormone. So that's going to decrease when we are on more consistent sleep, that will decrease the amount of hunger that we do have. So if our sleep is out of whack, the ghrelin may be being released improperly, in which case you might be getting more bouts of hunger cues from the body. So the overall takeaways from the hormone is that the quality of sleep is going to support recovery, appetite control, metabolism, and it is a key emphasis in precise hormone rhythms. All right, so people's views on sleep. Now, if any of these are your views on sleep, that's totally okay, but I'm glad you came to this webinar. So some views that people have on sleep, especially over the past 100 years, is that sleep is a luxury. Sleeping too much can be considered lazy. You can't afford to take sleep. To sleep, you feel like you're more awake with less sleep, that you can just have caffeine, whether it's an energy drink, whether it's coffee, or new research coming out about creatine to kind of bypass some of the sleep deprivation effects, that we need to burn the candle at both ends of the day, in the morning and the night. That sleep is just for babies, or you'll sleep when you're dead. Humans are the only mammals that are willing to delay their sleep. Other animals just go to sleep when they feel tired, and they don't have the ability, or they don't push through with caffeine and Netflix. And technology is a really, really negative effect on sleep. The blue light is going to suppress the melatonin production for up to 90 minutes. So just 10 minutes of scrolling right before you go to bed can have a really negative effect and delay your natural sleep drive, which can be super detrimental to our overall sleep. So if any of these views are your sleep, now some phases of life, young kids, we can't really control some of those aspects, but within what is controllable, especially some of these specific views I've listed here, those should be modified over time so we can really make sure sleep is a priority. So why am I tired? Sleep hygiene. Kind of what is it? Sleep hygiene is going to be, it's a variety of different practices and habits that are necessary to have good sleep, sleep quality, and make sure we have full daytime alertness. Um, so improper sleep hygiene is going to be a result of being tired. Our work hours, if you have really early start times, late finishing times, if you have long commutes, swing shift, graveyard shifts, 10-plus-hour shifts that take away from chore time when you're at home, all of that's going to affect why we are tired, especially as you kind of pair some of these areas together. Leisure activities can also be affected that. So late night video games, late night sports, TV, binge watching, nightlife, social engagements, drugs, alcohol, social media use, screen time, those are really going to have an effect on why we feel tired. And then there's family. So young children, pets, bed partners, sleep disorders, snoring, all of those will affect our sleep, how we feel, our restfulness, and kind of our alertness. So how can that become a threat? So America's sleepiness is becoming a threat to the public because it is affecting our workplace accidents. Think truck drivers, or even in office. It might not be health concerning, but mistakes will happen, especially if we are in a sleep deprived state for extended periods of time. Decreased productivity, which is going to harm work all around, as well as our family life and your own life. Um, the long-term negatives of sleep deprivation is that it's going to really increase the risk of chronic diseases. So that's going to be type 2 diabetes, heart disease, obesity, depression. It's going to decrease your immune function. You're going to have worse hormone regulation, so deregulation of your hormones, and poor quality of sleep. And sleep deprivation lowers, as I mentioned before, leptin, which is our fullness hormone, and it's going to rise in ghrelin, our hunger hormone. So it can make you actually crave more foods, especially carbs. And that is if we don't have adequate sleep. All right, so if you thinking of the average 7 to 9 hours, if you are getting an hour and a half less than that average, so anywhere between 5 to 6.5 consistently, or just under 7. Here are some of the negative effects that will happen to our body. So in the short term, within a few days, so under a week, you're going to have a reduced cognitive performance by 50%. So slower reaction time, trouble focusing, you're going to have more mistakes, you're going to be more forgetful. This is going to be a level of sleep that can impair you, like being mildly intoxicated. Then you can have mood changes. So you can have increased irritability, lower patience, higher emotional reactivity. Uh, we will have a slower metabolism and increased appetite. So again, that ghrelin, our hunger hormone, is going to rise. Leptin, the fullness hormone, drops, which can lead to stronger cravings, especially for carbs and sugar. Reduced immune function. So fewer protective hormones within our body. You have a higher likelihood of being sick. And then the long-term effects, which are all of these are substantial, but these can be more negative, especially because they build on each other. So chronic fatigue. You may feel, quote unquote, like you're used to it, but performance and alertness is going to continue to decline, even if we do feel like we are used to it, or we can get by with less sleep or have energy with less sleep. Physically, that is not the case. So if we're someone who's like, oh yeah, I can get by with 5 hours sleep, we're just used to it, the sleep deprivation, and that is actually not true. Weight gain. The consistent hormone shifts are going to make overeating and slower metabolism much more likely, which can lead to weight gain. You're going to have an increased risk of chronic conditions, as I mentioned. So high blood pressure, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, all of those fall under long-term effects of weeks or months with having decreased sleep. Poor exercise performance. So you're going to have lower energy, slower recovery, reduced coordination, which all is going to affect our exercise. And especially if you talked to me before, implementing movement within your day is extremely important. And I always would, strive to have someone try to implement a little bit more movement, strength training, cardio within their routine. But I want to make sure that you're also receiving the benefits from all that movement versus putting in all that work, all that time, and then not leading to it in terms of fruition in our body, in growth and performance. And it's also going to affect your memory and learning issues. So that deep sleep and the REM sleep, which I mentioned, kind of that very deepest stage, and more of that lightest stage. Um, if those stages are shortened, it's going to affect our skill retention, our creativity, our emotional regulation, and all of those are critical for our environment and life. All right, so sleep disorders. Now, some of these are not necessarily controllable, but these are the most common sleep disorders that are out there that I wanted to touch on. Insomnia, that's going to be the inability to fall and stay asleep. Sleep apnea is a breathing disorder, so you stop breathing during sleep for 10 or more seconds, which is very detrimental to our body. Restless leg syndrome, which is tingling, uncontrollably feeling in your legs with powerful urge to move them, which will disrupt our overall sleep as well. If you have a partner in the bed, their sleep as well. Um, Hypersomnia uh, is the inability to stay awake and alert during the day, despite having more than adequate amounts of nighttime sleep. So even if you're getting 7 to 10 hours consistently and you keep on, getting bouts of tiredness, you fall asleep, you might have hypersomnia. Um, Circadian rhythm disorder, that's going to be problems with our sleep to wake timing cycle. Now job can impact this if we are working those swing shifts or graveyard shifts. And then we have parasomnia, which is unusual behavior during sleep, sleepwalking, sleep talking. And those are the most common disorders. And if any of those sound like how your sleep goes, what can we do about it? I recommend, first and foremost, getting a sleep study. So talking to your doctor, especially with those major disorders, because so then during a sleep study, a doctor is going to um, monitor what's going on with their brain and body during overnight. They're non-invasive overnight exams. And then sleep labs are usually in a hospital, a sleep center, and they are set up for overnight stays. And they use an EEG, which is going to help look at evaluate the electric activity in our brain. And it also is going to measure our eye movements, our oxygen levels in our blood through sensors, our heart rate, our breathing rate, snoring, body movements. And it's all right if you're worried about getting a full night's sleep in a clinical environment, because you don't need to get a full night's sleep. You don't need a full night rest in order to get adequate information or a diagnosis. So they'll be able to help if you do have any of these main sleep disorders, and provide you with a prescription for an oxygen mask or different other medication or recommendations to help you with some of those. So those are kind of the major diseases and disorders. But otherwise, if you're here for the other kind of content, how to sleep. I know we've been sleeping for anywhere with people in the call between 25 to 70 years for our life. But sometimes, just like breathing, talking, walking, we get so used to it that we kind of forget that there is elements that we either can modify to maximize how we breathe. For example, most people just you breathe to breathe. It's just we're on the body needs to breathe, so it breathes. But oftentimes there are short chest breaths versus deep diaphragmatic breaths, which are much more beneficial to our overall body. So there's ways we can optimize our sleep, and that's why you're here. So how to sleep. I'll be talking about now how we can set up our sleep schedule, how you can follow a nightly routine, how you can cultivate daily habits, as well as optimize your bedroom. Starting off, let's set that schedule. So having a set schedule is going to help normalize your sleep, and it's going to be an essential part of your day to get your brain and body accustomed to the full amounts of sleep that you actually need. So having a fixed wake up time, regardless whether it's a weekday or weekend. I know that's kind of a unfortunate thing to hear, but it's super critical that we try to set a routine, a schedule, where we're trying to wake up at the same time, since fluctuating schedules is going to keep you from getting in your rhythm of consistent sleep. If you are like, well, that's not going to happen, I'm not getting up at the same work time of the weekend, try pushing it like a maximum of 2 hours from outside when you would normally wake up. And we have to make sure we prioritize our sleep. It might be tempting to skip sleep in order to work, to study, to socialize, even exercise, but it is extremely vital to keep and treat sleep as a priority. So calculate your target bedtime based on your fixed wake up schedule, and do your best to be ready for bed around that time each night. And it will, just like if you meet with me for personal training, for nutrition coaching, everything is on a spectrum of wellness that slowly gets modified over time. So it might not be expectation right now for you to immediately start, if you're getting 5 hours of sleep, to immediately go to 7 to 8 hours. But slowly you can try implementing some of these tips over here, and work your way to prioritize sleep and make it into a fixed sleep and wake up schedule. And I mean, exactly like you want to make gradual adjustments. So shifting your sleep times, making sure that we don't continuously kind of throw our sleep out of whack. So just make those small step by steps up to an hour or two, so that we can get adjusted and settle into our new schedule. And try not to overdo it with naps. Naps can be a handy way to regain energy during the day, but they actually are going to throw off our sleep at night. So to avoid this, really try to keep naps relatively short and limited to the early afternoon. So depending on your sleep schedule, if you're going to bed, let's say at 8 to 10 p.m., we wouldn't want to nap anywhere past 2 p.m. So it'd be kind of in the very early afternoon, and nowhere after that. All right, so now that we kind of set up our sleep schedule, let's take a look now at breaking down our nightly routine, which is extremely important, and I highly recommend this becomes a priority to you. So try to keep your routine consistent. Follow the same steps every night, including things like putting on your pajamas, brushing your teeth, mindfulness, meditation, stretching. This is going to reading, journaling. This is going to help reinforce our mind that it's bedtime, and try to budget for 30 minutes of winding down time. So take advantage of whatever puts you in a state of calm. So music, light stretching, reading, light relaxing exercises that don't elevate your heart rate. Then after we kind of are getting into that bedtime routine, try to dim your lights as well during that 30 minutes of winding down time, or 60 minutes before we go to bed. And make sure we try to stay away from bright lights because they can hinder the production of melatonin, and melatonin is going to naturally help facilitate our sleep. Leading right into unplug from electronics, 30 to 60 minutes. You need to have a bedtime buffer of 30 to 60 minutes, device free, cell phones, tablets, laptops, TV. This is going to cause mental stimulation, whether we're doom scrolling, looking at Facebook Marketplace in the Shoreview buy nothing chat, or binge watching one of our shows. This is all causing mental stimulation, dopamine, and that really makes it hard to shut our brain off. And also, the general blue light is going to decrease our melatonin production as well. So all screens are going to have that blue light. Yes, you can wear blue light glasses, but still dedicate 30 to 60 minutes phone free. And again, it's a transition. This is something that you are meant to implement over time, but you will, I guarantee, 100% guarantee that you will have better sleep if you get into this consistent routine of no phones within 60 minutes, or screen times in general, of winding down for bed. And try to test methods of relaxation that are going to work for you. So not everything's going to work. Something might work for me that doesn't work for you, or vice versa. So instead of failing to kind of set your sleep goal, it's going to be easier to focus more on the relaxation piece, the meditation piece, the mindfulness, paced breathing, other relaxation techniques that are going to help put you in the right mindset for bed. So test them out, see what works, and really focus on that pre-bedtime, because that winding down routine will get the body mind ready for bed. And don't toss and turn. As much as it is, you feel like you have a need to try and get comfortable. Um, it helps have a healthy mental connection between being in bed and actually being asleep. So for that reason, if after, so I have a 20-minute rule. If after being in bed for 20 minutes and you still haven't gotten to sleep, time to get up, get out of bed, stretch, read, do something calming in a low light environment. Again, no phone time or TV time. That's going to help you fall back to sleep. So 20 minutes. If you are still restless after 20 minutes, and part of that, it could be stress. You could be work stress, life stress. So maybe some light journaling, light stretching. Again, maybe having a pre-logged audio recording of a meditation that you kind of walk through, or breathing that you can print off and read through to help kind of wind the body down if we're not asleep by 20 minutes. Because oftentimes it can be your anxiety, our mental alertness that is preventing us from going to bed. There might be a high stress thing that we're getting into, and that is totally okay. Clocks. Position your clocks correctly. So facing away from the bed. You shouldn't be able to roll over and just look at your clock. I know it's less convenient, but we're not talking about convenience here. We're talking about how you can maximize and optimize your sleep routine. That also being said, phones, don't use phones as clocks if possible. Work back to our old alarm clocks. And if phones is a real challenge, real problem for you, or like, oh, I read on my phone, try not to read on your phone. I know they have ways of going like the black background with the white text and other things, but if possible, try not to read on the phone, and even don't even have the phone in the bedroom. Avoid temptation. Remove from out of sight, out of mind. Don't use it for an alarm clock, and that can help get the phone out of the room. But yep, keep it facing away from the bed so we're not looking at the light and it's not shining in our eyes. All right, so we've established setting up our sleep schedule, following now a nightly routine, which I know everyone here is going to do now. So to kind of cultivate our healthy then daily habits throughout the entire day to prep us for bedtime, it's not just the bedtime habits that are going to play a part in getting good sleep. It's incorporating a positive routine throughout the entire day that's going to support our circadian rhythm, and it's going to help limit sleep distractions later on and disruptions. So get daylight exposure. I know here in the Midwest, we are going into the non-daylight exposure time, which makes it even more important. So sunlight is one of the key drivers of circadian rhythm that's going to encourage our sleep quality. Being physically active is going to help regulate. So if with regular exercise, it's going to make it easier to sleep at night. It also is going to help deliver a host of other health benefits to us. Avoiding or reducing alcohol consumption, as well as smoking. So nicotine is going to stimulate the body in ways that disrupts our sleep, which is going to help explain why smoking is correlated to numerous sleeping problems. So so don't smoke, reducing alcohol consumption, alcohol night caps are going to make it easier to fall asleep. But after that effect wears off, it's going to solely disrupt your sleep later in the night. And as a result, it is recommended to moderate alcohol consumption or avoid it later in the evening. Cutting down on caffeine in the afternoon as well as the evening. Because it's a stimulant, caffeine is going to keep you wired, even if we are wanting to rest. So try to avoid it later in the day. Also be aware that with caffeine, if we're consuming a lot of caffeine, it can also be used. It's very common to try to use caffeine as a way to make up for our lack of sleep, which is not possible. We can't make up for lack of sleep with increasing our caffeine intake. A quick question here. Do you need direct sunlight or is working in a sunny place with windows helpful? Great question. Ideally, direct sunlight as much as possible if we can. Now, there are other things that we're really not going to approach kind of in the nutrition realm, but vitamin D. So I encourage looking into a vitamin D supplement, especially in here to avoid seasonal depression and make sure we're getting some of those the vitamins because those are helpful for our overall body in general. But yes, if you can get direct sleep, that would be awesome. Direct sunlight exposure. If not, as much light as possible, whether that's working in a light environment or being in an area where we have light. It's going to help our mood. It's going to help that circadian rhythm. Just bright places will help as well in the workspace if we have, those big fluorescent lights that will help the circadian rhythm, especially as that translates later in the night if we start dimming our lights or kind of softer lights when we get home. That's a good way to kind of regulate, especially here in the winter. Great question. All right, so don't dine late. Eating dinner late, especially if it's a big, heavy, spicy meal, is going to make us focus on digestion when it's time for bed. So in general, any foods or snacks before bedtime should be on the lighter side. And try to restrict in-bed activity. To build a link of your mind between sleep and getting in bed, it's best to only use your bed for sleep, and then making love is the one other exception. All right, so we talked about setting a schedule. We talked about building nighttime habits, cultivating healthy habits within the day, and now working to optimizing our bedroom. So this is the final one of my sleep tips here, and then we'll kind of go to open up some questions or practical application if need be. But optimize your bedroom. So a central component of our sleep hygiene is beyond just the habits in our sleep environment. To fall asleep, it's going to be to make it more easy. We want to make sure that our bedroom is a calm and a place free of disruptions. So not try to, it is worth it to invest in a comfortable mattress and pillow. Make sure we re-up our pillow and mattress as needed. Our sleeping surface is critical to our comfort and our pain-free sleep. So you can choose between the best mattress and the best pillow that works for you, but you need to choose wisely. So it is important to spend the money on those because that is a pinnacle of our sleep, as well as feeling rested when we wake up. Use excellent bedding. The sheets and blankets that we first touch when we get into bed, it's very beneficial to have those match your needs and preferences. Whatever those may be, make sure all of your bedding correlates very well with those. Temperature, I know I mentioned a little bit, but set a cool temperature. Set a cool yet comfortable temperature when we go to bed. So fine tune your bedroom temperature to what suits you and your preferences, but try to err on the colder side. So around 65 degrees Fahrenheit. I know some people are like, what? That's crazy cold. Or even lower, but that is what the body is wanting for itself, and your body's temperature actually drops a couple degrees at night in general, but you will get the most fulfilled deep sleep around 65 degrees Fahrenheit or a little cooler. But listen to your preferences as well as your partners. Blackout lights, use heavy curtains or an eye mask to prevent light from interrupting your sleep. So again, that's why we're facing those clocks away from you. Um, Unplug, well, I wouldn't recommend having a night light in your room, or if you think going to a hotel, there are lights everywhere. We have our microwave light, we have lights under the doors, which is why you might, my dad was a big fan of this. He's putting blankets over lights. He's covering the exit signs and shoving things under the door to make sure it's a fully light-free environment. That is a pinnacle in making sure we continue our circadian rhythm. So use blackout curtains. This is more prevalent, I would say, in the summer, as right now it basically is 4:30 and it is completely dark out. So not a huge issue. But if there's a street light, if you have a house with windows in the front of your house and cars can drive past, so blackout curtains are going to be really beneficial in making sure that we get full sleep. Now that being said, morning sunrise is very impactful to our sleep and regulating our circadian rhythm as well. So a jolting alarm is not as super beneficial as a clock light that slowly lights up, or the best case scenario would be just using the sun to help slowly start lightening up your room, which helps regulate our rhythms in order to wake up a little bit. Drown out the noise. Earplugs are going to be helpful, so they can help you from keeping up awake. If you have tinnitus, sometimes it is hard to find a workaround from that, so light white noise might be beneficial. But if you don't find earplugs comfortable, then you can wear or use a white noise machine or even a fan to try to drown out other bothersome sounds. And you can try calming senses. So light smells such as lavender may help induce kind of a calmer sense, a state of mind, which is going to help cultivate peace in space and sleep. Now, one thing which I didn't put in here, but I probably should have, pets. So pets can be a very large distraction. I would not recommend having your pet sleep on your bed with you. Now, if you're a big fan of that, you're like, well, that's just going to happen. That's totally fine. Just be aware that tossing and turning or jumping up and off the bed will disrupt your sleep. And if that is um, reoccurring, you might just have to again relook at your priorities. What's more of a priority, having your pet in the bed or having more of a fulfilled night sleep? So just areas to consider. And all right, that kind of cultivates all of our other sleep. As kind of a lasting note before any questions here, I really want to mention that sleep is a lifestyle choice and should be a priority. There are a whole bunch of priorities within our life, which is great. Want to make sure we prioritize our family, ourselves, our friends, our hobbies, work. And sleep really needs to find its place among the top of our overall priorities because we need to fulfill ourselves and fill our bucket so then we can fill other buckets without being sleep deprivated. All right, that concludes the presentation. Thank you so much for joining. If there is any questions, please feel free to either come off mute, put it in the chat, and let me know.